Hello, thank you for joining me for this Facebook Live. I know that this is a very random time for me to be on, but we had a bit of a technology fail yesterday, so I promised that I would be on to share what I wanted to share with you yesterday. As you may be aware, I spent the weekend at a craft retreat, had an amazing weekend with a bunch of lovely ladies. And part of the weekend was we did a shoebox swap. So what I wanted to do today, or yesterday, which has now become today, is show you the card that I used for my shoebox swap. This is the card that they all made, and I think that at the end of it, everybody was very excited with their cards. I really like this design. I think that it works really well. Let's quickly go through the products that I'm using. So the star of the card is the designer series paper, and this is the online exclusive paper, which is Delightful Floral. You've got two bigger and smaller leaf pieces. Then you've got some quite big flower images, and there are some smaller flower images, much smaller, and these very little ones. And the reverse side of the paper is all plain colors, but it's got these really pretty mottle effects. This paper does coordinate beautifully with the translucent floral stamp set, and dies, so I should have said bundle. There have been some questions about whether these flowers will cut out with the dies. The answer there is no, they won't, but they are quite easy to fussy cut if you wanted to fussy cut them. So that's the designer series paper, which, like I said, is the wow here. And then we're also using the Dainty Delight stamp set. I've got the double oval punch. Don't know which way is better for you to see it. And we're going to use the bow punch. So although it may look a little bit complicated, this card is actually really easy to make. And of course, you can use up your scraps or your stash of DSP depending on whether you need to cut into paper. It doesn't use a lot, but it does get into it. The one thing that I would suggest is that when you're looking at the designer series paper, you want pieces that you like the coordination of the front and the reverse side. And also these pieces you want to be little designs and non-directional. Alright, so let's get started. Now I have actually folded up some of my paper. Well, I've actually folded all of my paper, but I've unfolded some of it because guaranteed I would get it wrong on camera, or my eye would decide to play up or something. So all that you're doing is you're taking your piece of paper and you're folding from the corner so that that top edge lines up with the side edge. And although I had folded it, it doesn't look like I folded that one very well. Let's just try and get that better lined up. And you're doing the same on the other edge. Now, the one thing to be careful of when you fold this is that you want to have three pieces that are going in one direction and two pieces that are going in the other direction. So what I mean is, three of them you're folding from the top left corner down and two from the top right. Now it doesn't matter which way you do it, whether you've got three going this way and two going that way, or three that way, two that way. It doesn't matter as long as you've got the three and the two. That's important, because otherwise it's not going to meet up. Alright, so then we're taking our piece across, and if my measurements are correct, which I think that they should be, but just looking at them to make sure that they fit, This is going to actually go all the way across if you're working in an imperial. Remember, an imperial card is shorter than the metric card, so that piece is going to go all the way across without that border. Just be aware of that one when you're doing it. Now, start with any piece. No, don't start with any piece. You want to start with one of the pieces where you've got the three going in the same direction. And what we're going to do is put a bit of glue on the back, and we're going to line it up so that the fold of that designer series paper is in line with the edge of the cardstock, and it doesn't matter if it's not going all the way up to the top. You're not going to see that if it doesn't meet exactly as you're going through. And then we're now taking the next one. So this is one of the ones which we've got two folded in that direction. And we're lining up the two edges. And again, it's going down, back to the ones in the opposite direction. And matching up my edges over here. And so we keep going until we've used all 5 pieces and we've gone across our whole strip of petal pink. And at the end of it, our last strip should meet along the side and along there. It looks like I'm just slightly off here, so I'm just going to fold that a little bit more over. Right, so there we go, that's done. And then I'm going to take this and stick that onto, oh, that was good, we've now got glue all over, that'll be lovely. I'm going to try and smear it off, because otherwise everything's going to stick and it's going to be terrible. Right, so we're going to stick that onto our Calypso Coral card base. I'm going to stick my strip of designer series paper along the bottom. Now this is a bit shorter than my normal strip. I'd normally do it 14.4 centimeters. Here I've done it 14 centimeters, and that's just because I wanted to match up with my piece above over here. While I'm sticking, I've got another skinnier strip which I'm going to stick onto the bottom of my insert. And the same thing again, I have cut this one as smaller. I just thought that what I'm going to do is make it match the outside of the card, so we're going to have a little gap on each side, and because of that I'm sticking it with a little gap along the bottom. Like I said earlier, if you're working in Imperial, you're not going to have that gap. Your piece is going all the way across. Thank you, Heather. I'm really happy with this design, and I think that this paper works beautifully, particularly the small one. I probably wouldn't use the big ones for this just because these strips are too small to cope with the bigger designs, but it works lovely with that paper. Okay. So we've got our insert, and now we want our sentiment. So I'm going to use that Celebrate You sentiment from the Dainty Delight stamp set. We're just gonna stamp it along the bottom. I'm just trying to decide whether I've done this right or wrong, but it doesn't matter. I probably should have stamped it at the top, because now when I put it into my punch, I'm going to punch out the scalloped one as well, which I don't really need, but that's okay. We can always do something with it. Keep that, keep that. And we do want one of the scalloped ones in the Calypso coral. There we go. While I'm punching, let's just punch. I want 2 of these little bow pieces here, and this is the parakeet party, but you could use lemon lime twist as well. That would also work. And I want 2 of the bigger ones in I should have cut strips of this, because then I could have just cut the bigger leaves, but that's okay. We can always use extra little bows. I really like this bow punch just because it's got the pretty leaves, but it's also got the little almost flower bud pieces as well. Okay, now we're ready to go with the sentiment and assemble the card. So let's just stamp. When I say stamp, I do mean stick the sentiment onto that scalloped oval. And now you can play with this however you like. What I tend to do is see where I want my party parakeet bits, and I'm going to stick those onto the leaves. And then we'll just put a little bit of glue on here and pop that behind the sentiment. And I'm going to do the same with the one for the other side. I'm trying to see whether there's a right side and a wrong side, but I'm not seeing one, and if you have to look that closely, it really doesn't matter. It could be that they're curving in a direction, but I don't mind if they happen to land up curving in opposite directions, so that's all good. Okay, so let's pop that on here. It looks like this is a good time of day to be on. Suddenly we've got quite a few people watching, and we need some dimensionals. We want this to pop up on dimensionals so that it adds a little bit of height and interest to the card. I'm going to put 3. Sometimes you have dimensionals covering every little bit, and other times one dimensional seems to be able to hold everything together. Oh, that was just pure coincidence, the nail polish. I don't know how come it landed up the same, but I hadn't even noticed that until you commented, Angela, so that was an interesting one. I like to color coordinate, but I didn't. Oh, now I have a problem, because every other card that I do until these nails change is going to have to be the same color. That's going to be a little bit difficult. And I've got some of the flat back adhesive pearls here. I used the basic rhinestones on this one, but I thought that maybe these adhesive pearls would look nice just for something different, although they are a bit bigger than the rhinestones. But okay, now when I originally did the card, I actually went and put stones in between each one, but it just landed up looking a little bit too much, so I think it works better without the stones. And what I've done is I've got another 2, because of course we have to try everything in different colors, and so I've done these ones with the Masterfully Made Designer Series paper. So it's exactly the same, just with the different paper, and like I said, you can play and have fun because this works really nicely, and If you've got any of those sort of 1 inch or 2.5 centimeter strips that you don't know what to do with, here's what you're going to do with them. So hopefully I will be back on Sunday at 10 o'clock, my normal time, and we won't be having any more technology issues. I am going to be entering this card into Kylie Bertucci's International Project Highlights tomorrow. So I will put a post up here as well with the link. If you like the card, please vote for it. It's